do age gap relationships work? 0207 862 2222, that's the number. We're talking about this partly because Peter Andre has written about his lovely wife, Emily. She's 16 years younger than him. She's a doctor. She's a terrific person, actually. I've met her and she's delightful. But she did not recognise Jon Bon Jovi when Jon sauntered over to say hello at an event recently. But Peter says it doesn't matter. She didn't know who Bon Jovi was. They're very happy. They've been married since 2015. They've got 3 lovely children together. But obviously we started thinking, what about a large age gap in a relationship? Does it work, even if you're sort of slightly different generations and you don't get each other's illusions or musical tastes or fashion tastes? Do get in touch. And the person who knows about this, of course, William Sitwell yet again, because what's the gap between you and your wife?
Fortunately, my Emily is working, so she won't be watching this. Yeah. 16 years, Peter Andre with his Emily. My Emily is 18 years younger than I.
Right.
And I think it's great. We have a lovely time. And I'm probably deluded, and I don't feel that we, look like some sort of freak couple when we're out and about. But again, I'm a deluded man.
So people don't say, "Oh, we'll just seat your dad."
I don't know.
They don't say, "We'll seat your dad over there, darling," they don't do that.
They might be. Of course, there are going to be cultural differences purely because of the historical fact that you were born in, in sort of different decades.
18 years earlier, yes.
Eras, different centuries almost. Yes. And I do remember specifically, it was the day that David Bowie died, which I found incredibly sad because he was this sort of real hero to me. And David Cameron, Prime Minister at the time, was on the Today programme, and he was asked about Bowie. And my wife was sort of talking to me. I went, "Shh, I need to listen to this." And she went, "Don't you ever shush me." And quite right, but I was going, this is Cameron talking about Bowie. Yeah. I needed to hear it. Yeah. So I sort of learnt a lesson about dignity and politeness. But
hang on, I thought you were going to say she'd never heard of David Bowie.
Yeah.
I didn't. I was going to say you told her to be quiet and she didn't like it.
She didn't. I don't think she was particularly au fait with his magnificence.
How big a deal he was.
How big a deal he was. And sure, there are, constant cultural references about music and so on, things that I grew up with that mean a lot to me. And, if I think I said something about how awful it was that Morten Harket had a recent diagnosis. Yes, from a-ha. And she looked at me and so...
flummoxed, because she's never heard of him.
Yeah, well, she probably heard of a-ha, but she wouldn't have heard of maybe the name of the lead singer, who was just this, towering figure in 80s music.
I'm going to say Take On Me, and you're probably going to start singing it, and then it's all going to be
exactly.
great.
So you're always going to have these, but you just have to be understanding and polite and decent to remember that, funnily enough, because we work, we have a nanny at home, and she's the same age as me, or a few years younger. So actually, culturally, we're on the same wavelength, because we can talk about music and newsy issues. And, I was growing up, I was born in 1969, so, I was sort of very interested in politics when Thatcher was around. And, I want to talk about the members of the cabinet, Heseltine and Howe and all that sort of thing, John Major and all that sort of thing.
All the greats.
All of which means absolutely nothing to my darling wife.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because, you can find other friends to talk with. But I think the other key thing about age is that, when you come out of school, you always put in your school years. And what I've discovered in life is that you always have friends that are much younger, always friends that are much older. I mean, I'm going through a period now of a very busy summer because all my wife's friends are getting married. But at the same time, some of my older friends are having their 70th birthdays.
Oh, my God.
And to me, that age gap is just about the wonder of life, because you learn from experience. And also, if you've got friends who are older than you feel less worried about your own decrepit age. Every time I get another grey hair or can't stand up or I look something at the floor and think I can't get to it, I realise that I've got friends who are more decrepit, and having young friends makes you try and still it fitter and younger, for that lot. So, and I think, there's a club I belong to in London, and the people of all kinds, they're artists, they're different ages, and we all have things in common because we remember it. And I think
I want to know if Caprice has ever been in an age gap relationship.
Vanessa, I used to only go out with younger guys.
Oh, younger guys.
Before my husband.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you a question as well. Before I'll interject. But has your wife ever referenced your age and the difference?
No, it's
not at all.
I don't think so. No,
in a derogatory or
no, we just get on. I mean, she tells me off as
she doesn't
like
say, "Oh,
I'm
you
a
old
child
fogey,"
for bad
and things like that.
behaviour.
Have you seen before my husband, because he's 6 years my elder, I used to go out with younger guys, and I actually didn't like being the older woman. It made me feel really insecure, and one guy in particular really shoved that, really threw it down my throat, you know? And it made me feel really bad. Now, it's my issue for staying with him, of course, but...
I could pretend I don't know what you mean, but I do know what you mean.
It's not
I had
nice.
16 and a half years with somebody, a bloke 10 years younger than me, and I would say something very similar. You know, he made me feel it. I couldn't not be aware of it because it was almost kind of like like he'd won the lottery of life because he was 10 years younger than me. So whatever happened, he was always 10 years younger, and therefore I was always somehow the loser.
And he made sure that you knew that.
Yeah, and you're quite right. My fault for being in the relationship and staying there that long. I take responsibility for that. But yes. And certainly it was not a non-issue. It was an issue. Let's go to Archie in London because he's waiting on the line. Hi, Archie. What do you think?
Hi guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Pleasure.
I think really it's dependent upon the maturity and experience of either couple. Really, mainly. I mean, I would like to say the younger of the couple. And in my case, that become an issue. Really, the experience and the emotional, you know, mental and the male say intimate experience. And
How much was the gap, and who was the older?
I was the older by 22 years.
Okay, and
Rock and roll.
right. And
yeah,
so,
I mean, it was good when it was good, but it's obviously like anything, it was bad when it was bad. But I think a lot of that came to the age gap and the maturity.
in the end, did you have to end the relationship?
Well, I mean, that's actually what I've had to do. It just become a bit too heavy to have to sort through, you know. Plus, the other party had a bit of baggage, if you like to speak, so don't we all? But the age difference was definitely thrown in my face as well, and I just think the maturity was just a bit too much and the experience.
Yeah, and some people say, though, like William, that it works beautifully. It's never referred to. It's as long as you're not telling your wife to shush, which is really...
Yeah, I mean, age, for me, at first, it was, age is just a number. But like I say, it really isn't. Age is, I think it depends. It depends on what people want, really, I think.
I appreciate the call. Let's go straight to Michael in London. Michael, you've got an 18-year age gap. How does that work? How's it going?
It works very well. I'm 80 and my partner is 62. We met at Christmas 28 years ago. Wow. He lives in South London. I lived in West London. So we had about an 8-year relationship of not living together. Then we've been living together. So in fact, we've been together 28 years, and it works for us.
And just talk to me about Michael, about as you age, and your partner obviously ages in tandem, but do you think it gets less relevant the older you are, or is it more relevant the older you are?
No, we're still very much in love. I mean, I'm now retired, so I'm at home a lot of the time. At the moment, I've had a serious foot operation, and I'm homebound, and I'm in a wheelchair.
Oh, sorry.
He works, which is fine. I look after the house, basically, get the meals ready for the evening. We spend weekends together. We go out. It works for us. And as a gay relationship, a lot of them don't. This is my point. You don't have to have anybody on at the moment who has had a same-sex relationship. But I'm proud.
I can't confirm or deny that. I've got no idea. I haven't asked them that. I haven't said when they arrived on the pink sofa, tell me, have you ever had a same-sex relationship, Michael? So I don't even know whether that's correct. But nevertheless, listen, I wish you better from the foot. And it's very nice to hear that true love does conquer all. And it's really a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.